Welcome to the IVF Abroad podcast for people who are struggling with infertility and trying to conceive and who are facing more obstacles than options when it comes to having fertility testing or treatment in their home countries. Alongside other experts, I will share, educate and empower you on your journey and help you to learn more about going abroad for advanced fertility testing and treatments like IVF and egg donation. I'm Emma Haslam, your host, now mum of one, and the go-to expert in fertility treatment abroad. Since the birth of our son in 2018, I have made it my mission to make fertility treatment more informed, transparent, accessible, supported and affordable for more people. And I help people just like you to become unstuck, to find a best fit clinic that truly meets their needs and to have fertility treatment on their terms and timescales so they can achieve their dreams of growing their families. And I'm here now to help you too. Be sure to check out the free resources in the show notes for more help after listening to today's episode. Hello, it's Emma here. Welcome back. Now, this week, I want to talk to you about something that I think we can probably all relate to. One of the things that people look at when choosing a fertility clinic is success rates. I did too. And that makes sense. You know, you want the best chance of getting pregnant. So you'd assume that you could choose a clinic based on their success rates. But the reality is, success rates rarely tell you what you think they do. So, success rates can be misleading when comparing clinics, especially internationally. And in this episode, I want to unpack that with you so that you've got more of an understanding, because I believe in transparency and I believe in you being able to make informed decisions based on the right information and what is then right for you, because we are all different. So instinctively, we all want to, of course, focus on things like success rates because it feels to us like maybe we are reducing risk. It helps our brains to feel like we're making the best decision. It feels like an indicator that we can use to say, okay, well, they've got these success rates. So, you know, this is a good choice for us or for me. And it can help us to narrow down the clinic that is most likely to work. But the thing is with fertility treatment and success rates, things are complex. And particularly when you are looking across countries, they are not directly comparable between clinics or countries. And they're not always directly comparable in the same countries either. And I'm going to talk more about this. So there are three main reasons why success rates can be misleading. So things are done differently, reported differently, regulated differently in different countries. So because of that, if you are looking, as I said, across countries, then you cannot accurately compare because you're not comparing apples to apples. In some countries, clinics have to report their success rates. In other countries, they do not. In some countries, there is more control over what clinics can say, and in other countries, there are not. Clinics are also very good at presenting their success rate in a way that is favourable to them. And because of that, it can be difficult to work out if what you're reading is a marketing representation of figures, or the full picture. And in some countries without regulation, it would be easy to manipulate figures. But also, what we have to bear in mind is there are clinics that are geared up to perhaps deal with more complex cases, so maybe older patients, complex medical histories, repeated IVF failures, things like that, where their success rates, they may be really, really good at what they do, which is why those patients go there. But their success rates will be lower with that demographic of audience. There will be other clinics that will not work with those patients that might be because they haven't got the specialism, but also maybe an intentional choice to accept only more, in inverted commas, straightforward cases, because then that influences their success rates. So then they can say, we've got this success rate in this area. And it's one of those things that when I say that to people, because I say these things to my clients all the time, they're like, oh gosh, I didn't know that, or I didn't think about it like that. So sometimes some really excellent clinics may look, if just looking at success rates, like they're not as good as somebody else. But the other thing as well is what's good for one isn't good for another. So in terms of, like we've just talked there about the patient selection side of things, in terms of you selecting a clinic, if you get the clinic choice wrong for your needs, then they're not going to be the best people to treat you, and therefore their success rates for you are not going to be as good as going to a clinic that has the expertise that you need. So that's another reason why that sort of clinic selection and patient selection bit is so important, and how it can be really, really, really misleading. Now, I know here in the UK, we have the HFEA, and the UK clinics will report their success rates to them, which does make it easier here in the UK to be able to compare clinics on success rates on a sort of apples to apples comparison, for sure. And that's definitely helpful for people who are perhaps having their treatment in the UK. But again, thinking about success rates, you might be comparing a clinic that takes on more complex cases versus a clinic that has higher rates, but only treats, say, young patients with straightforward, more easy to treat conditions. So even then, it needs to be taken with a pinch of salt. But either way, I don't believe you can kind of accurately compare clinics just on success rates. And it's more about getting the right clinic for you that has success in your area that is needed. Now, I've touched upon how there are reporting differences between different countries. So when you look to then go abroad, not every clinic measures success in the same way. So examples might be things like seeing pregnancy rate, so clinical pregnancy rate when people have had a blood test around about the 6-week mark to confirm clinical pregnancy, versus live birth rate. Or, sometimes it's not clear whether people have had multiple cycles of IVF, whether they've had things like PGTA genetic testing of embryos, whether they've had any extra laboratory techniques, how many embryos were transferred, were these fresh or frozen cycles. And that can make comparing numbers extremely difficult if you don't have the detail behind what constitutes those success rates. What I've come to realise is that when interrogating success rates with clinics and what they are actually comprised of, you can very quickly then see that actually you can't compare them apples to apples, and therefore it's kind of negligible, really, which is really frustrating and difficult, because if they could all do it in the same way, that would be helpful. Although that said, you have to bear in mind that the people used in these samples are different. So it's kind of one part of a jigsaw, really, rather than the thing we should hang our hat on in terms of choosing a clinic, because honestly, comparing numbers is so difficult, and it's not an accurate way of measuring whether a clinic's right for you, whether a clinic is good. And the number you see online may not actually reflect your situation at all. There's other things like, for example, the clinics out there that do mainly donor conception versus own egg, well, they will have higher success rates generally. If clinics are reporting cumulatively, they're going to have higher success rates. So it's really, really tricky. What I believe matters more is the clinic's experience with your specific situation. and what do they think your perceived chances of success are at their clinic. And understanding like the lab quality and the embryology team and their treatment philosophy, and whether you understand their communication, whether that flows, whether you like the team, whether they have the expertise that you need, and whether the clinic is a fit that is right for you in all ways, rather than going with the one that on their website says that they're the best because they've got the highest success rates. There is no universal best clinic anyway. There's only a best clinic for your circumstances. But these figures can be presented in ways that can be misleading, that don't give you all of the information. And inevitably, what I'm saying is they will all report differently. So you can't accurately compare anyway. So they give some useful context, but they should never be the only reason that you choose a fertility clinic. Yes, we want to go to clinics that have good success, but have good success for people like us. It's too personal, it's too important to be reduced down to a single number. So when you're looking, be thinking more about that wider picture of what do you need in a clinic, and then working out if they can suit your needs medically, your care needs, your budget, and then speaking to the doctor and asking them what they think your perceived chances of success are based on your situation, because that is a more accurate indicator than a number on a website. But also be thinking, does this clinic feel like the one for me or for us? From the doctor through to anybody else that you are liaising with, and not some arbitrary figure on a website. I hope that's been helpful. I will see you next week for another episode of the IVF Abroad podcast. Bye. If you are facing more obstacles than options and want to learn more about how to overcome your fertility testing and treatment challenges in your home country so that you too can fast track to growing your family and on your terms, then check out my free training at yourivfabroad.co.uk/free masterclass. Don't forget to rate and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and so that I can reach and help more people. Thanks for listening.